On this right now, I'm joined by John Ackerman here in the studio. He's a professor at Mexico's National Autonomous University. Dr. Ackerman, thanks for joining us.
A pleasure.
Well, as we heard there from Frank, this marks a return to the pre-2 power. But I'm just wondering, how does Enrique Peña Nieto dispel the commonly held perception that his is a party of corruption, of vote buying, of vote rigging, even violence?
Well, I don't think he's done it successfully yet. We can see that from the protest today in the streets. It should have been a sort of more terse transition. But the joke in Mexico is that, it's time to turn back our clocks 80 years because they left after 10 and they were in 71 years. He's been talking a good game, talking about democracy, transparency, but actually when you look at the policies he's implementing and the cabinet he named yesterday, this is really the old guard is coming back to Mexico with much support from the U.S. government. And so we have a unlikely or perhaps likely alliance, however you want to look at it, between the U.S. government, Washington, and the old guard in Mexico, designed around, I think, there are a few sort of strategic areas which are going to be pushed here. One is oil, for instance. The United States is very interested in Mexican oil. The other issue is a question of violence, of course, migration, economic development. These are all on the agenda.
Okay, I want to get to that. I mean, he comes to power at an opportune time. Mexico's economy is doing very well. Its growth rate has outstripped Brazil on the one hand. But I'm wondering, there are still deep divisions in the country over the drug war. Is that his major challenge?
Well, we can start talking about the economic numbers because it's interesting. It's true that the last couple of years Mexico has rebounded from the crisis of 2009 effectively, but it's still not doing well economically. Poverty has gone up for the last 6 years. Real growth has only been 1.5% over the last 6 years during the Calderon administration, and there have been anything between 60 and 100,000 deaths due to the drug war. I mean, the homicide is over 100,000. We don't know how many of those are actually due to the drug war. And so Mexico is in crisis, both economically and in terms of law enforcement, public security, and these are issues which have to be dealt with. The big question of everybody's mind is whether this old guard is going to be able to do it, whether they really want to do it, and with these people in the streets protesting, it's going to be difficult.
Okay, we've got about 30 seconds. Another question, and that is, he doesn't have a majority in either house of Congress, right? And he now is dealing with, I guess, a Supreme Court as well as civil organizations that have a lot more power.
Yeah, I think there is hope. Again, I think the good side is that these protests are talking about a different Mexico. They're going to be pushing Peña Nieto and this old guard to actually move forward and do things. And so, there's a emerging youth student movement which came out over the last few months during the electoral campaigns, which I think is really the solution to Mexico's problems, and that's where we should be looking for a brighter Mexico.
Dr. John Ackerman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.